Are you all ready for some hot and spicy fire dragon action?
Oh yeah.
Cause I sure am. I'm Don151, I've got Mekkah with me, and this is chapter 12 of my FE12 Maniac Mode 0% Gross playthrough. This chapter, among the people who are familiar with this game, has garnered a reputation for being one of the most difficult chapters in the game, and in this playthrough at least, I will completely agree, because I think that this is the hardest chapter in this playthrough.
Yeah, this map is almost unfair, because in concept it's just so ridiculous, right? You have to walk Marth and his whole friendly company across the bridge, which is only 2 to 3 tiles wide, and you have to fight a bunch of angry dragons. Not just the flying wyverns that we saw last chapter, but also the really bulky fire dragons. We fought one of those back in chapter 7. Back then, he was alone, and we could maneuver around him a little bit, and we had like 4 units to kill him. This time they outnumber us, and we have much less room to work with, and we definitely cannot one-round kill him with any means without like the 4th dragon pike that we have. So it's going to be a lot more difficult, and one way that you can tell that this is going to be very difficult is the amount of rainbow potions we use, because we use 8, which shows, you know, we gotta be ready for this.
Thankfully, we also have a bunch of stat boosters from the prior chapter that we collected, almost all of which are going to Palla, because she's still hungry for some reason, and this is the strongest at any point in the run the Palla's going to be, I think. We had to divert one of the speed wings to Minerva, because she needs to reach a doubling threshold at 17 speed, plus 4 from Rainbow Potion and Scorpio in order to double some of these dragons in the upcoming chapters, so that's pretty important. And then one more tool that we're going to employ is that we're going to reclass Etzel to a Swordmaster, because the Sorcerer robes just aren't edgy enough for him. And unlike in Shadow Dragon, 11 Sword Swordmasters are no longer a meme in this game, they're actually a very serious threat, for a few reasons. The 11 Sword in this game is much stronger than it was back in Shadow Dragon, it's 10 might compared to 6. Magic using units in this game generally have much higher magic growth, so they do a lot more damage to begin with. And especially at the end of the game, there are enemies that are strong enough that they start approaching a high enough speed where sages no longer double them. So, in a sense, the Swordmaster is almost like an endgame class for magic users, because their 30 speed cap and their increased mobility is a very good option for these magic users to reclass into.
So this chapter also introduces a bunch of really mean reinforcement zones that on one hand seem to incentivize the player to hurry up a little bit, but also be very careful about exactly how they hurry up. Because what they usually do is you enter a reinforcement zone, and then at the start of the enemy phase a bunch of angry dragons spawn and they kill you. So you have to be very particular about who you should activate and where you should wait. And Palla says, to hell with that, I'm going to get danced and I'm going to get into a reinforcement zone right away, right across the forts that are near where everyone else is. And she's just going to go over with her new forged Javelin, which in celebration of gay culture, we call the gay Bulge. Palla is doing this for a couple of reasons. One of them to do like a little bit of chip damage to the fire dragons over there. But she's also pulling Daros over, the recruitable berserker that you can talk to with Marth, back from Shadow Dragon once again with the blue paint. And she's also pulling over 11 Sword Swordmaster. She'll kill him. She needs to use the Javelin because the 11 Sword has 1 to range, of course.
We also had to give Palla the Scorpio Shard at the start of this chapter to allow her to double and 1-round KO the Swordmaster, because in this game the Rim Potion does not allow you to break her stat caps, but shards do, and so the Scorpio Shards plus 2 speed was the only way that Palla would be able to get more than 23 speed for that enemy phase. The other thing I want to point out on that enemy phase is that there was a fire dragon that attacked Sirius, and Sirius one-shot him with the Long Dong. It doesn't make sense at first glance why he didn't attack Jeorge or Horace instead, because both those units have less defense than Sirius, but this is where I like to introduce the 2% crit rule. So in this game, critical is also important for deciding what an AI wants to target, and in an enemy phase, if an AI sees that one unit has at least 2 more crit than another target, they calculate the damage as if they always do that critical. So Sirius has 4 luck, Jeorge has 5 luck, but we gave him the Libra Shard, so he actually has 7 luck, and Horace has 7 luck, so that means that the 2% rule causes the Fire Dragon to attack Sirius over less bulky targets.
So we engage with the wyverns on our own turn, because if we let them come to us, then we are surely dead. Their position needs to work out quite well, and it often doesn't. It can be a little bit random. If they are too far out from the bridge, then our Draco Knights cannot make it back onto the bridge to fulfill their next objective, and that would be very bad. Funnily enough, when Don first tried to play this chapter, he would deploy Sita instead of Horace because he likes her better. It just wouldn't work out, but with Horace it works for some reason, so FE12 works in mysterious ways. Marth dumps the blue paint on Daros just like in Shadow Dragon. Daros is a pretty okay unit, he has a lot of bulk and strength and axe rank. He's not great for this playthrough, not as great as you might think, but he still works out pretty well. Marth did put Daros and himself in a pretty precarious position though, Marth needs the Scorpio Shard in order to not get doubled by the Fire Dragon, and if he gets doubled, he's dead. And Jeorge himself is put in a very, very bad position thanks to this Devil Axe that hits him, but he survives with 1 HP.
So the entire reason why Jeorge was able to survive that enemy phase was due to the Capricorn shuffling that Wendell, Malicia, and Etzel are engaging in, because Capricorn is a shard that gives +2 magic, and Etzel needs it for the extra damage, but Malicia and Wendell also need it for the extra HP healed with Physic, because in this game, every 2 points of magic heals 1 point of HP. This is kind of contrary to something that Mekkah always rags on Mangs about, where magic doesn't matter for healers. This is like the one instance where it does, because we need every point of HP that we can get in this map due to how tough the enemies are, whether it be from healing, or vulnerary uses, or even fort healing.
So we mop up the 2 remaining Fire Dragons with some pretty exact damage, and now we have to worry about the reinforcements that are coming out. So there's going to be reinforcements this turn from the top forts, 2 Fire Dragons and a Barbarian. Anyone who's near that is pretty much dead, so we have to cover all of those. But the bottom group has to stay near where they are to cover the bottom forts next turn, and they're already being chased by some angry reinforcements. Etzel takes it upon himself to hold them up all by himself, 2 Fire Dragons and a Barbarian once again, and then next turn they're going to cover the forts that they're nearby.
Yeah, so Etzel needs to not crit the first Fire Dragon that he faces, otherwise it can put himself in a little bit of trouble for next turn. But he also dodges a Barbarian that he didn't have to because he had enough HP and bulk to survive it thanks to the Angelic Robe that he got in the previous chapter. And by holding up that first Fire Dragon just enough, it allows our units that we place on the forts next turn to be safe without risk of being ganged up on.
So this turn Marth has to walk pretty far into enemy territory in order to make it to the gate next turn, and he has to be surrounded by all of our Draco Knights in order to survive, because there is a wyvern nearby, and there's nothing we can do to make Marth survive that. Not even the Scorpio Shard and the Rainbow Potion would do it. So we just have to surround him, and then all of our other Draco Knights also needs a little bit of protection, because they're also not going to survive against all the enemies there.
Yeah, so we're ending the final phase of this map where Marth crosses like the horizontal bridge, and there are actually some reinforcement trigger zones here too that often even Lunatic mode LTCers don't do, because what they often do on this map is that they use a rescue use to get Marth to skip all the reinforcements here. But because our rescue staff is broken, we don't have that luxury. We have the 4 Draco Knights protect Marth in a very specific setup. We gave Horace the Long Dong so that the Wyvern won't attack him because he would get one shot. We gave Sirius the Scorpio Shard so that he had the extra speed to avoid being doubled. And Minerva and Palla already survive a round of combat anyway, they don't get doubled. So that only leaves Catria. And Catria does get doubled, but because we gave her the bond drop way back in chapter 2, she has 3 max supports in range, so she only faces 50 hit from the Wyvern. And so she has already a 25% chance of death, but she could also counter crit with the Silver Lance due to the extra supports giving her crit, and that would also help her survivability. So all in all, this is actually a pretty reliable enemy phase. It's worth noting that Catria could have equipped a Killer Lance for a higher chance of counter critting that enemy Wyvern that attacked her, but when I tested out that setup, the Wyvern wouldn't attack Catria at all, probably because the chance of a one-hit KO was too high. So once again, FE12 works in mysterious ways.
So if you were to take a screenshot of Marth's current position, you would get this entire Let's Play in a nutshell. It's him surrounded by 5 Draco Knights. There was a lot of micro optimizations in this chapter that we didn't really get to comment on, like trait strats that just goes a little bit too fast to comment on. But there's a lot of them, and I think anyone who's played this chapter knows how difficult it is and how much harder it is than it actually looked. A couple of last things we have to do. We have to pick up the Vulnerate from this Wyvern in front of us, because that's very important for gold reasons. But even more importantly, we pick up the Pisces Shard from the dragon in the upper right. By getting that, we have all the star shards collected, so we get the good ending. In FE3 Book 2, that one was actually hidden in the treasure chest and was very easy to miss, but thankfully in this case it's a lot easier. And this dragon is the reason that Minerva actually had to take a speed wing.
So after Wendell squeezes in one last heal, we're going to hightail it on out of here, because the enemy reinforcements are very close to overwhelming our rear guard, and I can't imagine anyone who would want to stick around for more punishment. So that's chapter 12 finished in 5 turns, and we shall see you next time.
See ya.